Hi students, today we are going to discuss about the regulation of extracellular fluid and osmolarity. Actually, this is we are going to see about that how can the extracellular fluid is going to be regulated and how can it going to maintain the osmolarity. So objective of this class, first of all we are going to see about the introduction, and next we are going to see about the extracellular fluid. What is the extracellular fluid, where exactly it be present, and next we are going to see about this is the regulation of osmolarity of extracellular fluid and regulation of volume of extracellular fluid, and if there is a fluid it's going to be excess amount will be just served. So what are the applied aspects, we are going to be cover the all things in this class. First, we are going to see about the introduction. It is important to regulate the extracellular fluid volume to maintain the blood pressure and essential for adequate tissue perfusion and function. And changes in the extracellular osmolality causes changes in the cell volume that seriously compromise cell function, especially in the central nervous system. Actually, the regulation of the body fluid volume and osmolarity, which means the water and electrolyte balance, is an integrated function of the various organ systems. So, the regulation of the volume, composition, and osmolarity of the body fluid is closely associated with the control of water and electrolyte balance of the body, as body water content reflects the volume of body fluid compartment and concentration of electrolytes influence the composition of osmolarity body fluids. Important thing is this kidneys plays important role in a regulation of the extracellular fluid volume. The extracellular fluid volume is primarily dependent on the sodium ion homeostasis, which contributes significantly to the regulation of the plasma osmolality. To control the volume, composition, and osmolality are major function of kidney that is interdependent of physiological phenomena. And this is a body composition. I hope everybody know about them by the general physiology itself, because we studied that time. There is a what is the body composition, what is the body fluid compartments, like that. So we are going to know about this, and there is a intracellular and extracellular, as well as a interstitial and plasma. So these are the fluids is going to be make the compartment, and we already heard about the some of the formula also for equal to the total body water is a 0.6 into body weight into the body weight, and there is a intracellular fluid is a 0.4 into the body weight. Extracellular fluid is a zero point 0.2 as a into the body weight. Interstitial fluid a 0.75 into extracellular fluid, and plasma volume is a 0.25 into the extracellular fluid. So we have to know, we already know about this compartment divisions. So how can it's going to be make the segregation, the intercellular fluid, extracellular fluid, and interstitial fluid, as well as the plasma. So I'll show the one more diagram that will be easy to understand. This is a total body fluid. Now we easily to just segregate as one is the extracellular fluid, another intracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid, we know all the things, so that is be present in the outside the cells. So what are the fluid will be just present the outside the cell, that's considered as the extracellular fluid. If it will be present the inside the cells, there is a intercellular fluid. That's why I have just mentioned this, all the fluid is inside the cells, and here these are cells will be this outside the cells. This is interstitial fluid, a blood plasma, cerebrospinal fluid, amniotic fluid. So these are the fluids comes under the extracellular fluid. And followed by that we are going to see about the some of the concentration of body fluid as a measures of the fluid capability to create the osmotic pressure is called as the osmolality, and osmolar and concentration of the solution. So some maximum they forgot, they will make the confusion of, in between the osmolality and osmolarity is nothing. There is a more difference. This is a simple thing. There is a osmolarity, which means is a number of osmoles per kilogram, and osmolarity and number of osmoles per liter. So this is osmolarity per kilogram, osmolarity for the liter. Again I have to explain about this one is a osmolarity and osmolarity. A measure of the fluid capability to create the osmotic pressure is called as the osmolarity or osmotic concentration of solution. Okay, so in the simple word, it is the concentration of the osmotically is active substances in the solution. Osmolarity is expressed as the number of particles. So the number of particles, otherwise is called the osmoles, as per kilogram of solution. So we are coming to the osmolarity. That is, the osmolarity is another term to express the osmotic concentration. It is the number of particles, otherwise called as the osmoles per liter of the solution. So this is considered as the osmolarity. So osmotic pressure in solution depends upon the osmolarity. However, in practice, the osmolarity and not osmolarity is considered to determine the osmotic pressure, because the measurement of weight in the kilogram of water in solution of difficult process, and difference between the osmolarity and the osmolarity is very much negligible, and it is less than 1%. Actually, the in these two term of are used interchangeably, which means change in the osmolarity of the extracellular fluid affect the volume of both the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid. For example, when osmolarity of extracellular fluid increases, the extracellular fluid will be increases in the osmolarity, so water moves from the intercellular fluid to extracellular fluid. When osmolarity decreases in the extracellular fluid, so what happens? So water moves from the extracellular fluid to intercellular fluid. So the water movement continues until the osmolarity of these two fluid compartment becomes equal. So this one we are going to see the further slides. So before we are going to see that so describe about this one in the osmolarity and osmolarity. So first of all, we have to know about this, what is the constituents of osmolarity. So constituents of osmolarity, which is present, the sodium is 135 to 145, and is a potassium 3.5 to 5, and is a chloride is a 95 to 110. So then find the plasma osmolarity is 280 to 295. So this is the constant osmolarity, so we just maintain. So next we are going to see about this one, how to maintain the water balance along with the input as well as the output. So what are the input, what are the input is coming to just maintain or store the water balance, to maintain the balance by the food or oxidation of the food and liquid. So totally 2100 to 3400 milliliter per day for a output. So we have to see, in the other hand, we have to see the insensible loss 800 to 100 milliliter per day. Due to the sweat, we have to just lose the fluid as a highly variable, because it depends upon. And there is a feces is 100 to 200 milliliter per day, urine to 1 to 2 liter per day. So there is a 2100 to is a 3400 milliliter per day. Actually, this is input as well as output as well as same, but even though there is to maintain the water balance in our body. Next, we are going to see about the regulation of the osmolarity. How can the increase the osmolarity of the in the extracellular fluid? By the stimulation of the thirst by the osmoreceptor, and stimulation of the antidiuretic hormone in the osmoreceptors, and increase the thirst, and the increase the water intake and dilution of extracellular fluid. Here there is the increased antidiuretic hormone secretions, water retention due to the water pump distal converter tubule as well as a collecting tank, and finally there is a dilution of extracellular fluid. By this way, either there is going to be just stimulation in the highest center, as going to be just threshold the stimulus which is present in the increase the thrust, and have to be just stimulate to the person how to increase the take the water intake more. And in other hand, if there is a person, the person doesn't take any water orally, so what will happen, it will give the stimulation of the antidiuretic hormone. So what will happen, this antidiuretic hormone is increase the antidiuretic hormone secretions, and so here to be is going to be taken out the water back from the renal part. So water retention due to the increase the water permeability in the distal convoluted tubule. This give the information or give the order from the higher center, like as a antidiuretic hormone is going to playing an important role to making the water retention. So finally what will happen is the dilution of the extracellular fluid is going to be compensated. I hope this will be more understandable. So excess amount of water is ingested. So what will happen to decrease the body fluid osmolarity, which means increase the water concentration. So what will happen is decreasing the firing by the hypothalamic osmoreceptor and going to be decreasing the vasopressin secretions, which means the antidiuretic hormones going to be secreted less. So then what will happen? It will be decrease in the plasma or vasopressin, and the tubular permeability to the water and to decreases, and is a water reabsorption from the renal part is going to be decreases. So there is a more water going to be just excreted by the urine. So this is a way if there is a excess amount of water ingested. Okay, if there is a less amount of water ingested, what will happen? Or if there are insufficient water, it will be just present in the body, what will happen? Just comes out is going to be in the opposite area. So here is the increase the body fluid osmolarity if there is a as insufficient amount of water will be present in the body. So these are things going to be is going to be increasing the body fluid, increasing the firing, or increasing the antidiuretic hormone, increasing the plasma osmopressin, and is going to make the more permeability of the to water, and water reabsorption that takes places in the specifically in the proximal convoluted tubule as well as the cutting ducts, and finally there is going to be decrease in the water excretions. So this will be happen whenever this is going to be the less. Okay, and next we are going to see about this one. There is a changes. This is a plasma osmolarity is a volume contraction, evolemia, which means a normal as a volume expansion, depends upon the water balance is going to be change or is going to be just secrete the secretion from the higher center, or it's going to be stimulation for the higher center. Next we are going to see about the regulation of the volume. So how can it's going to be just make the regulation of the volume? So how to bring back the water molecule towards in the extracellular fluid? So we need the some of the mechanisms to just bring back the water molecule towards the extracellular fluid. So here we are going to see about the sodium ions content in the body is the main determinant of the extracellular fluid. So regulations of the volume. Now we are going to see about this. Oral sodium is going to be intake. The renal sodium is output as well as the extra renal sodium output is equal to renal sodium output and plus extra renal sodium will be output. So kidney excreted or conserved sodium is the response to increase or decrease the extracellular fluid volume, but ECF in ECF volume not change in, but ECF sodium concentration will be changes, and it is not ECF the volume per, but there is an effective circulating volume that regulates the sodium excretion. Actually the control of the sodium chloride excretions, the renal sodium chloride excretion is controlled by the both the neural as well as the hormonal mechanisms. The neural mechanisms is a stimulation of the renal sympathetic nerve in response to activation of the volume receptors lead to a decrease the sodium chloride excretion in the important mechanisms. One is the increased renin releases because it's going to be give the mechanism of renin-angiotensin systems and increase the sodium absorption and to reduce the GFR as a glomerular filtration rate. So what happens if the renin releases? Sympathetic stimulations increase renin secretion from the JG cells that activate the activate the renin-angiotensin system, which is in turn promotes the promotion of angiotensin 2 and aldosterone. Both these hormones increase the reabsorption of sodium and chloride from the renal tubule. We'll come towards the increase in the sodium absorption. Sympathetic stimulation directly increases the reabsorption of the sodium from the proximal tubules, and in the reduction of the GFR, this is symptomatically induce the vasoconstriction of front arteriole, decreases GFR. This decreases the filter load of the sodium to the tubules. Thus, urinary sodium excretion is reduced by the glomerular tubular areas or tubular balance. Regulation of the volume, actually there is an effective circulating volume. This effective circulating volume is the blood volume in the arterial system that causes the effective perfusion of the tissue. This is also called as the effective blood volume. This excludes the stagnated blood presence in some visceral organ and inactive muscles which does not participate the perfusion. The pressure is the circulation that helps in this perfusion is called the effective perfusion pressure. And next we are going to see about the approximately 20% of the blood volume forms the effective circulating volume. So in physiological condition, now we are going to see about the physiological condition. So effective circulating volume reflects the extracellular fluid volume and artery volume, and extra yes, effective circulating volume is contributes to cardiac output and arterial pressure. Change in the volume of extracellular fluid changes vascular volume, and therefore that changes the effective circulating volume, cardiac output and arterial pressure. I hope you'll understand. I'll repeat again. In the physiological condition, actually in the physiological condition, we are going to see the effective circulating reflects the extracellular fluid volume and arterial volume, and effective circulating volume contributes to cardiac output and arterial pressure. If there is a changes in volume of the extracellular fluid, changes vascular volume and therefore changes the effective circulating volume and cardiac output and arterial pressure. So the kidneys are playing the major role for in this. So how can it be just maybe changes there? So now we are going to know about some of the pathological condition also. In pathological condition in which expansion of the extracellular fluid is a major pathophysiologically change of the disease as occur in congestive heart failure, nephrotic syndrome and hepatic cirrhosis. The effective circulating volume does not completely depends on the extracellular fluid volume. In such condition, in spite of the expansion of the extracellular fluid volume, the effective circulating volume may remain normal or even reduce. Kidney sense a change in the effective circulating volume and not the extracellular fluid. So therefore the decrease in the effective circulating volume is causes the renal retention of the sodium and water, that further aggravates the fluid accumulation and the edema formation. This effective circulating volume and sodium balance are closely linked. Therefore the retention of the sodium causes expansion of effective circulating volume and depletion of the sodium contraction of effective circulating volume. So now we are going to see about the regulation of volume or sodium balance. So sodium is actually pumped out of the cells as a sodium potassium ATPase pump. Is the 65% of the total body sodium is extracellular. Extracellular fluid volumes is a reflection of the body total body sodium contents. So normal volume, the regulatory mechanism ensures that the sodium loss balance is again sodium gain. So now we are going to see about this one. What are the sodium input as well as the output? So we are going to see about the sodium balance. So first of all we are going to see the input or the sodium or food and water, and 100 to 400 millimole per day, and by the urine is going to be excreted the 100 to 400 millimole per day. By the sweat efficacy is going to be negligible. For an expansion in extracellular fluid volume to stimulate the sodium excretion, the expansion must take itself evident in the part of the extracellular fluid compartment where the extracellular fluid volume sensor are located. So the thoracic blood vessels appear to be the site of greatest importance. Actually the regulation of the sodium excretion in the euvolemia is a normal volume, and there is a regulation of this hypervolume and the hypervolume. So during the volume as a normal blood volume, the sodium excretion is adjustable by the reabsorption by the sodium chloride, the tubule. Aldosterone is a primary regulator of the sodium ion absorption from the kidney. So now, which is present in the regulation of the excretion and the hypervolemia. So if there is a volume expansion, initiate the response that increase the sodium excretion from the kidney. And which condition will be this? So this is a decrease the renal sympathetic activity, decrease the activity of renin angiotensin aldosterone system, and increase the antinatric peptide secretions. And next we are going to see about in the hypervolemia, so to decreases. So what will happen here? So increases this is mainly caused by the increases the renal sympathetic discharge, activation of renin angiotensin aldosterone system, and decrease the antinatric peptide secretions. So followed by that we are going to see about this. These are the changes will be happen in the excretion of the sodium ions. And followed by that we are seeing this one, that we have some sensor to how can it's going to be make the sense whether it's going to be decreased, whether it's going to be increased, whether it becomes a normal. So the extracellular fluid volume receptor which is present there. So here there is a central, and so in the vascular sensor there is a low pressure sensor, the cardiac, atria, pulmonary, vasculature. In high pressure sensor we have a carotid sinus, aortic arch, JG apparatus, which means the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So here by this sensor we usually to sense there is a water balance or there is a extracellular fluid balance or is going to be maintained or not. So sensor in the central nervous system, sensor in the liver also is going to be given the part of to just sense the whether it will be decrease or increase in the extracellular fluid volume. So now we have to know about this. There is a 4 parallel effector pathways. So how can it's going to make the compensation? So by these 4 pathways going to make the compensation of this whenever there is a extracellular fluid is going to make the imbalance, or there is a water balance going to be just decreases, or water balance to just convert as an imbalance. So what will happen? So here there is going with the help of this pathway is going to make the compensation. So here in the renal system there is a renin angiotensin system. I hope you know already there is a renin angiotensin system. Just have to be just a retention of the water and bring back to us a body fluid normally. And sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous systems, and posterior pituitary to increase the antidiuretic hormone, and is a atrial natriuretic peptide. So these are the 4 pathways. The parallel pathways is going to be just helpful to just make the compensation of the whenever there is an imbalance of the extracellular fluid. So this diagram is most easy to understand how can is going to make the retention or going to be compensation of there is a imbalance of the or there is a decrease in the extracellular fluid. So what happened? This is a renal part. So in the renal part what will happen? The sensor is going to just sense whether it's going to be decrease in the body fluid level. So it's going to give the information to the JG cells. So immediately what will happen? There is a renin angiotensin system's work is specifically the angiotensin system 2, renin angiotensin 2 this work on that. So it will bring back to us a fluid as a normal. And another way there is a cardiac, and that also is going to be helpful to just bring back to us a fluid as a normal. And so somehow the receptor which is present in the aortic arch and carotid sinus, so this also which means the baroreceptors is going to be helpful to just sense the body fluid, and this is going to be helpful to just bring back to the fluid as a normal. Followed by that there is one more example to decrease the plasma volume. So what will happen? So decrease the arterial pressure. So what will happen? So this is increasing the plasma renin, so immediately is going to increase the plasma angiotensin 2. So I hope you already know about that one. So there's a at the same time there's a aldosterone secretion is going to be increases, the plasma aldosterone is going to be increases. So finally there's a sodium and the water is going to be excretions will be takes places. So by this way is going to make the compensations. And here there is a stimuli of the renin. So we've seen already this one is by the renal systems is going to be make the compensation with help of this renin angiotensin system. And some of the so here this one actually is a renin angiotensin system to bring back to us a fluid level as a normal. So one is going to be renin as an enzyme is going to be, then immediately the angiotensinogen is going to be secreted by the liver. So the liver is going to just given the renin angiotensinogen. So immediately it is combined with the renin. So they'll be combined together is called as a renin angiotensin 1 and going to be converted towards the renin angiotensin 2. So angiotensinogen is going to be 2 is a more effectively to make the vasoconstriction and bring back to the blood pressure going to be increases. And another way is going to be just a segregate or is going to be stimulate the adrenal cortex and is going to be just retention of the salt and water. Yeah, this is the way is when actually here the extraglomerular cells, so it's going to be sense. So after the sense, what will happen? So it's going to be just make the retention. If the fluid level is going to be decreases, is going to be just retention of the water. So what are the effect of the angiotensin 2? Aldosterone releases is going to be releases the angiotensin, so aldosterone or antidiuretic hormone. So here what will happen is a vasoconstriction of the renal and other systemic blood vessels and stimulation of the thirst and the antidiuretic hormone secretions increase the tuberoglomerular feedback. So what will happen by this way is going to be just make the retention of the water from the renal mechanisms. And next is it enhances the sodium chloride reabsorption by the proximal tubule, thicken ascending limb of the Henle loop of Henle and the distal converted tubule as well as a collecting duct. So this is one more example of that. And followed by that renal sympathetic nerve activity, afferent and efferent arterial vasoconstriction, what will happen? So alpha adrenergic receptors is going to decrease the glomerular filtration rate and going to be filter the load of the sodium to the nephron is reduced. So renin secretions is stimulated by the cells of the afferent arterioles and sodium chloride reabsorption along the nephrons directly stimulated the alpha adrenergic receptors. So for example, there is a low pressure volume of receptors respond mainly to fullness of the vascular. To example, vascular volume afferent from these receptors travel in vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, and terminate in the nucleus ductus solitarius in the medulla. Fibers also contact the antidiuretic hormone secreting neurons in posterior pituitary. Therefore, the stimulation of these receptors lead to there is a sympathetic nerve activations as well as a antidiuretic hormone releases. Okay, so this will be happen. So here next we are going to see about this one as a natriuretic peptide. So the natriuretic peptide is giving the vasodilation of the afferent arteriole and vasoconstriction of the afferent arteriole to increase the glomerular filtration rate. And what's happened finally, this increases the filter load of the sodium ions. So inhibition of the renin secretion by the afferent arterioles and inhibition of the aldosterone secretions because it's going to be excess amount. So it's going to be just inhibit that one. So inhibit the aldosterone secretions directly and indirectly via inhibition of the renin secretions. And simultaneously inhibition of the sodium chloride reabsorption by the collecting duct, inhibition of antidiuretic hormone secretion and its action on the collecting. And next we are coming to the salt appetite. Some areas in the same region where thirst and antidiuretic hormone osmoreceptor are located. Two primary stimuli that increase the salt appetite. One is a decreased extracellular fluid sodium concentration and decreased blood volume or blood pressure associated with the circulatory insufficiency. And this is the changes in osmolality affect cell function. If it be increases, there is a hyperosmolality and there is a decrease in the hypoosmolality. So central point is a menosis. So next we are going to see about this one is a edema is increase the extracellular fluid volume and decrease the effective circulating volume and the examples. And now we are going to see about this one, the applied aspects. This a disturbance of the fluid volume results in either dehydration of the or overhydration is based on the osmolality of these body fluids. They are categorized the 6 varieties. One is isoosmotic dehydration, hypoosmotic dehydration, hyperosmotic dehydration, isoosmotic volume expansion, hypoosmotic volume expansion, hyperosmotic volume expansion. So there is a 6 deviations will be there. So first of all, we are going to see about this one as a iso volume expansion and isoosmotic volume contraction. Isoosmotic volume expansion is usually occurs when isotonic fluid are infused for more than required amount. Extracellular fluid osmolality does not change in isoosmotic expansion, and water does not shift between the extracellular fluid and intercellular fluid compartments. The actually it will happen in the extracellular fluid and plasma volume will be increases, and the plasma protein concentration decrease due to the hemodilution by accumulation of the extra fluids, and hematocrit decreases due to hemodilution. Shape of the red cells does not change, and blood pressure increase due to the volume expansion. And followed by that, we are going to see about the isoosmotic volume expansion. What are the physiological corrections? How can we going to make the corrections by the physiological view? Increase in plasma volume pursued by a volume sensor that inhibits the antidiuretic hormone secretion and promote the water excretion, and water diuresis restores the plasma volume. And on the other hand, we are going to see about the isoosmotic volume contractions. So what are the causes? Is diarrhea, vomiting, hemorrhage, and burns. So here, isoosmotic dehydration occurs in conditions is loss of isotonic fluid from the body commonly, which I already told about this one. And usually there is a extracellular fluid osmolality does not change in the osmotic effect. Shift of water between the extracellular fluid and intercellular fluid compartment does not exist. So here actually mainly there is a decrease in the extracellular fluid and plasma volumes on concentration of the protein in plasma in increase because of the loss of extracellular fluid, and protein concentration of plasma increases due to the decreased extracellular fluid volume and water loss, and decreased blood volume decreases the arterial pressure. So these are the things this comes under the isoosmotic volume contractions. And next we are going to see about this hypoosmotic volume expansion. So when the water gain exceeds the loss, so hypoosmotic volume, so here actually, yeah, there's a hyper, this one hyper, this is a hyperosmotic volume expansion and hyperosmotic volume contractions. Is excessive administration of the hyperosmotic saline causes a hyperosmotic volume expansion. This occurs rarely. The effect of the hyperosmotic overhydrations. So maybe it will happen the volume of extracellular fluid and plasma is more, osmolality of the plasma and extracellular fluid is more, and is due to the increase the plasma volume, and atrial pressures increase due to the expansion of the extracellular fluid compartments. So what are the compensatory mechanisms? This increase the plasma and extracellular fluid volumes, is increase the secretion of the atrionatriuretic peptide, and that produces the natriuresis and diuresis. This restores the plasma volume and osmolality, and plasma volume is the expansion inhibit the antidiuretic hormones secretion that causes the diuresis. And in the other hand, we are seeing this hyperosmotic volume contractions. So the hyperosmotic volume contraction is a volume will be contracted occurs when loss of the water is more than the loss of solutes from the body. So it will happen the decrease in extracellular fluid and plasma volumes due to the loss of water, and increase in the osmolality of the extracellular fluid and plasma due to the pure or relatively more water loss, and due to osmotic effects water shift from the intercellular fluid to extracellular fluid. So there will be causes. What are the causes for the hyperosmotic volume contraction? Is the decreased water intake, diabetes mellitus, diabetes insipidus, excessive sweating, alcoholism, and in tracheostomy patients insensible water loss up to the 500 ml via lungs. So next we are going to see the hypoosmotic volume expansion. So when water gain exceeds, so hypoosmotic volume expansion uh, occurs. So this due to the hemodilution that decrease the osmolarity of the plasma, and it occurs in the excessive infusion of the hypertonic saline injection of the large volume of water colonic wash with the plain water or hypertonic fluid. So here, so what are the causes? There is a causes gives a CAD and ingestion of the large volume of the water, excessive infusion of the hypertonic saline. So is a which already told about the rectocolonic washout with the plain water. So here there is a hypoosmotic contraction causes hypoosmotic volume contractions. This usually results from the adrenocortical insufficiency associated with the renal loss of the sodium chloride, and aspiration of the gastric secretion may cause a hypertonic fluid loss from the body. So what will happen, what are the causes is a adrenocortical insufficiency, vomiting, aspiration of the gastric secretions. So these are things will going to be takes places in the hypoosmotic volume contractions. So I hope that I will cover all the things. If there is any doubt, very clarification, then just comment here. So actually this now we are I have to tell about is the overview of the extracellular fluid. This is a regulation of the extracellular fluid, and there's a and osmolarity. Okay, now there's a what is the regulation of the extracellular fluid? I hope everybody know about this. In the extracellular fluid is the fluid which is present outside the cells. So inside the cell is called the intracellular fluid. So whenever there is a decrease, when there is an imbalance of the extracellular fluid, so what are the things going to make the regulation or bring back to the normal fluid level? So how can going to bring back to the normal? So we've seen about there is a different method or different mechanisms to bring back to the normal. For example, is the renal system accompany along with the liver as well as the lungs. So that will be going to be easy to just make the renin angiotensin system. So renin angiotensin 2 is going to be just acting as very effectively, then bring back to us the fluid level that becomes normal. And second thing we have seen in the ationatric peptide hormones, and this also bring back to us the fluid normal. And we have we seen some of the receptors which is present in the acting as a sensor, and it'll be whenever there is a which is present in the carotid body arch of aorta. So we have some of the receptors is going to be easy to sense the when the fluid level is going to be decreases. So with help of this all the mechanisms, we are that extracellular fluid is going to make the compensations. If there is a fail, so we seen the applied aspects also. So now we seen the applied aspects, along with that we seen the treatment, which means the physiological corrections. So what are the compensatory mechanisms if there is a happen in the applied aspects? For example, there is isoosmotic dehydration, hypoosmotic dehydration, hyperosmotic dehydration, isoosmotic volume expansion, hypoosmotic volume expansion, hyperosmotic volume expansion. So what will happen here? So we have a 6 varieties. So we seen this 6 varieties. How can it's going to be happen in the applied aspects if there is a decrease or it will be failed to compensate the extracellular fluid, and what are the treatment, which means the compensation of the physiological view. So we have, I hope you will be understand the topic. If you have any doubt, we have any queries, please you have to be text, you have to be comment. So it'll be if you have any clarification, then also you have to be just text down or have to comment, and I hope I'll give the answer. Okay, thank you.